This morning, when Faye asked what we were doing today, I told her we were going to church, and she had some protestations, and I assured her the homily would be very short. So I'd like to assure you of the same. Please pray with me. God, I ask that the meditations of our hearts and the words of my lips might be holy and acceptable to you this day, and might be for us a word, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. Over the past several weeks, news outlets that pop up on my phone have been reporting on news studies that show that older Americans, many of you qualify, are becoming addicted to their screens at alarming rates. While there has always been concern about young people becoming addicted to their screens, it seems now we need to be concerned about their grandmas and grandpas. None of us need news articles to tell us something we already know, though. If you've ever tried to have dinner with someone who's got their phone out, or tried to ask someone for help in a store only to realize they have an earbud in and heard nothing you asked, you already know this is true. The computer in our pocket makes it possible for us to hear the voice of almost anyone we can think of at a moment's notice. At any moment, on any day, we can call almost any person we can think of. Not only that, through podcasts or reels or YouTube videos, the magic of the internet, we can even hear from people we don't know. Maybe even people we don't need to know. We are endlessly connected. And yet, we are endlessly connected, and yet those of us living in this moment know that we are not. We all have a computer in our pocket, which makes it possible for us to be endlessly connected, but it's also made it possible, it seems, for us to be endlessly disconnected, distracted, disengaged, divided. At any given moment, we have more access to more information than anyone has ever been able to conceive of, and yet we struggle to discern which voices are worth listening to and which are merely trolls leading us down paths of isolation. We are endlessly connected, and yet we find ourselves more socially and ideologically and politically divided than most of us can ever remember. We can, with the swipe of a thumb and a few taps, hear from almost anyone we can think of, and yet, for the most part, we've stopped listening to or engaging with each other. As I saw those news articles this week, I kept thinking about the Christmas story. The Christmas story is full of scenes where people hear the voice of God through the voice of angels. In Luke 1:11, an angel appears to Zacharias foretelling that Elizabeth will get pregnant and give birth to John. Some of you might know him as John the Baptizer. In Luke 1:26, we hear the story of the angel Gabriel appearing to Mary and telling her that she will conceive and give birth to a boy and that she shall name him Jesus. In Luke 1:41, when Elizabeth hears the greeting of Mary, the baby John leaps in her womb. In Matthew 1:20, the angel appears to Joseph and tells him not to leave Mary, even though she's pregnant when she shouldn't be. And then in the story we just heard from Luke 2, we have the angels of the Lord appearing to the shepherds. Imagine if they'd had earbuds in, or had been too busy playing Candy Crush to look up and notice. Imagine if they'd had another endless podcast on so loud in the kitchen they couldn't hear. Speaking of podcasts, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I know that's ironic given what I just said. And it was an interview hosted by the New York Times, and it was an interview kind of roundtable with a bunch of people in media, some of whom are journalists in the conventional sense, and some of whom are disruptor podcasters. And the people around that table ranged from the CEO of PBS to Charlemagne the Great to Ben Shapiro. It was a wide-ranging circle of voices. And they were talking about the problems with the media and the problems with our disconnectedness and the problems in Washington. And Ben Shapiro, for once, said something I completely agreed with. He said, everybody needs to put down their phones, take a Sabbath, and touch grass. They'd been talking about this problem of people being disconnected because we sit in echo chambers with this computer in our pocket. We tune into podcasts, stream content straight from the cloud into our ears. But we fail to be present with one another. As I listened to that podcast, I thought again about those news articles and again about this story of Christmas. I wondered, in what ways have those computers in our pockets caused us to neglect listening to one another? Perhaps more importantly, in what ways have those computers in our pockets caused us to miss hearing the angels of the Lord? I wondered, what angels have we not heard because we were too busy scrolling? When have we seen the face of God but missed it because we couldn't look up from the thing in our hand? We are endlessly connected. And yet, I wonder, what would Mary or Joseph or the shepherds have heard if they'd been looking at their phones instead of looking for the face of God or looking at the stars? What happens when we look only at our own creation instead of the creation of the God of the universe? Full disclosure, at the top of our service, I was trying to pull up my communion liturgy on a device because, it's the world we live in. And I too was stuck in that device when the little bells happened. And I looked up. I could have cried, actually. My hope, my belief is that even if we're looking at the screens, God will find ways to break in. But I think it's worth us examining, if only for a day, if only for Christmas, whether we might find ways to put away the voices that are available and be present to the voices here or around our table. So I want to challenge all of us, if only for Christmas, if only for a Sabbath, which historically goes from sundown to sundown, to put away the noises, the screens, the distractions in our lives. Put your phone down. Disconnect from that thing that connects. And see if you hear the voice of God. Amen.